Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here, bringing you another edition of Food Preservation a little at a time. Let's get into it. Do-do-do, do-do-do, vegan prepper. Do-do-do, do-do-do, vegan prepper. So last week in one of my videos, I mentioned that my current goal is to have my dehydrator going, basically nonstop, 24/7, always full, to try to build up some more stores of dehydrated food for making like 72-hour kits and evacuation buckets and all that stuff. And just in general to get it preserved, because I like to have a store of dehydrated food on hand. It isn't only about like emergency preparedness. Honestly, having dehydrated food for instant meals is just super handy. It comes in handy so often, as you can imagine. So it's just something that I like to have on hand. I definitely prefer dehydrating to canning. I have a ton of canned food on my shelf here. We're working through that right now, and I'm kind of getting the jars back so that I can start reloading that shelf with dehydrated goods instead. So for one, it's going to be a weight savings, but it's also a huge space savings. Like I can and while it's great to have the canned food that's kind of ready to go or whatever, I really love the dehydration for just, again, the weight and the space savings. You can store way more food in a much smaller space that is very easily rehydratable and very easily usable in a situation, because I was kind of thinking through it. And if we were in an emergency where I didn't have water to rehydrate my food, the food would be the least of my worries, right? Water is even more important. So anyway, I'm sticking with dehydrating. But with that super long intro out of the way, let's go ahead and get eyes on what I actually did manage to get dehydrated this week. And I'll sort of talk a little bit about each item, what I did to prepare the dehydration, or to prepare it for dehydration, and all of that. And then give you also kind of the stats on the space savings, which is my favorite thing personally. I love seeing the quantity of the item previous or before dehydrating and then afterwards, so that I can see like just visually, because sometimes it's actually hilarious, and I'll show you that. Actually, well, why don't we start with carrots? So I have in my freezer like a relatively large bag remaining of frozen diced carrots from Azure Standard. And so what I have noticed about the carrots so far, and also their hash brown potatoes, is something that I noticed as I was cooking, is these seem like they're already very thoroughly cooked. And I don't know if I got a batch that was just blanched a little too long or what, but to keep in mind, like, so typically carrots, even frozen carrots, might take a while to cook in like a pot of soup or whatever. But these were like, if they were in for even 5 minutes, they were kind of total mush. And the same thing with the hash brown potatoes. Like I was noticing and learning that I have to kind of throw these things in. I have to throw these things in at the very end in order to not end up with just like mush at the end of my meal. So it just sort of was kind of, brainstorming through that. Then I wonder how they would do as rehydrated carrots in like an instant meal. And I haven't tried that yet, but that is kind of what this is destined for. But again, it's kind of a hilarious volume space saving thing. This jar is a quart jar. So up to the very top is 4 cups. So I did a tray, and this is typically how I do this. I measure the quantity of the item onto usually just one tray. If I'm being super extra, I'll do like all the trays the same volume and then measure all the trays after. But typically there's not much variance, and so I now just basically just do one tray. But this is 4 cups total because it's a quart. So this is the volume of carrots that I put onto one tray, just to give you a visual. And then when I pulled the carrots out, because I actually did 2 trays, this is a pint jar. This goes up to 2 cups. And so this is the 1 cup mark right here, and it's actually not even quite there. But 4 cups of these diced carrots, now granted they were pretty little, dehydrated down to a half cup. So this much. It was 4 cups of diced carrots, and it became 1/2 cup. So yes, space savings. And that was hilarious. That might be one of the most dramatic ones I've ever seen. I was really shocked. I was like, did I measure right? It's like, did I check the right tray? And if I didn't check the right tray, then I'm pretty sure I did. But even if I didn't, So this is 1/2 cup, and then it's not even to the 1 cup mark. So it would be just barely over a 1/2 cup then if it was not correct, but I'm pretty sure it was correct. So for one thing, I do really love it when it happens like that and the math is super easy. So like so easy because I'm distracting myself right now, but let me stay here. 4 cups to 1/2 cup is 4 ounces. So that's just like an ounce, or 2 tablespoons then becomes the measurement for 2 tablespoons of these carrots will equal 1 full cup of diced carrots. And now it might not rehydrate back to that full volume. A lot of times the dehydrated food won't rehydrate back to its original volume, but even still, you know the equivalent, so that when you're making your recipes, you know, like some of the temptations sometimes, because you're more used to working with the fully rehydrated food, is you'll want to grab a larger quantity to throw into your recipe. It's like you have to know, like, oh no, if I want, you know, the equivalent of this much carrot in there, then I can only add like 2 tablespoons of this. And so it makes it go further. But anyway, isn't that amazing? And so the thing I was about to distract myself on, so this is one last shot of this jar of carrots before we move on. And they were dehydrated at 125. Actually, everything that I'm about to show you today was dehydrated at 125, as an FYI, because in case people will wonder. But I really love using the Ball brand jars. And now not all of them are like this, because I have one here that is a smooth-sided jar, and it was purchased kind of, I guess, during pandemic stuff where like you couldn't find a lot of things and I didn't have a ton of options. So I got these, even though I prefer this type, which has measurements right on the side, because it just makes it so easy to know what the measurements are without having to, you know, use a whole bunch of extra kitchen utensils. I can use my use of parchment paper and put the stuff on, and then I just funnel it right into the jar, and then I can look at it and say, oh, that's how much I got out of that tray, and measure, and then it just makes my life easier. But also I just like knowing how much I have. I don't know, I like having a measurement right there. And so, but just watch out, because I can't just blanketly say Ball jars anymore, because some of them are smooth now and they don't have their measurements. So just sort of look, and if it doesn't say smooth, then it should probably have the measurements. And you can also usually tell just looking, because they are like visually different, like very different. But the Kerr brand, I think, typically does not have measurements, but I could have sworn at some point I saw a Kerr brand jar that also had measurements. So anyway, I hope that that is helpful to you. I apologize that there's like so much to say, but I'd rather say it than not say it, just to try to be helpful. Okay, so here is another one that's really fun, and I'm realizing this jar is not the prettiest. This came out of the dishwasher and apparently didn't do a very good job. Now I'm kind of embarrassed. But anyway, this was 2 pounds of frozen broccoli, and it came out to about 2.5 cups is what that is. And so a pound bag of frozen broccoli is like, well, here, just a second. All right, this is a 1 pound bag of frozen broccoli, and it became 2 of these became that. So now it doesn't need to be in the freezer anymore. It's shelf stable. And then let me go put this back and I'll discuss the other details of the broccoli. Okay, so for the preparation of the frozen broccoli, all I do is I roast it. So technically speaking, frozen vegetables are already blanched and like kind of ready to go. And you could technically just dehydrate frozen vegetables as they come. Although with something like broccoli, you'd probably want to cut it smaller, because they're some of those pieces can be awfully large. But so for these carrots though, I did make an exception. I didn't do anything to them before I dehydrated them, because like I said, from what I have been able to tell, they're already like pretty cooked before they were even put in here. So I didn't cook them any further, and I just went ahead and dehydrated them. So that's an experiment. We're gonna see how that turns out. But for the broccoli and cauliflower as well, rather than steaming or blanching or whatever further, I like to roast them. So I just basically do parchment lined baking tray, and then I dump the broccoli out, and then I roast it, usually at 400 or 425 for like 30 or 40 minutes, however long it takes to get a fork. You know, you poke it with a fork and the fork just slides right in. Like, I don't want any resistance when I'm planning on doing dehydrating, because when it rehydrates, it'll have maybe just the tiniest bit of a chew, but almost like imperceptible, but I don't want it to be even remotely hard anymore before it goes into my dehydrator. But that's how I do it. It ends up being super easy. Like there's very little hands-on time. You just dump the tray and then throw it in the oven. I do like a little bit of salt sometimes if I want it flavored, like if I'm turning it into chips or something, or like not like a chips, but if I'm intending it to be like a little crunchy snack, then I might salt it. But these I did leave plain because they are destined for instant meals and whatnot. So I also really love roasting over the steaming or whatever. Boiling will lose nutrients, but if that's your only option, then still do it because there's still some nutrients there. So I'm not trying to make anybody feel like the method that's easiest for them now is somehow insufficient. Honestly, the best method is the method that you will do and the method that will get this food on your shelf, because that's better than not doing it because somebody poo-pooed the method you wanted to do. Okay. But for my own personal self, I do find it very easy to just roast the vegetables so I don't worry about the boiling. And so I also really love the roasted flavor. So they get like those little dark spots. And then I don't know if you could see on this, and it even kind of shows up in the dehydrated broccoli. Oh, it smells so good. But anyway, it shows up. So you see there's like some green, but like there, right there, that's a little roasted. That's like a little dark roasted spot. I don't know if you guys can see the color difference. And that flavor comes out in the rehydrated meal. And so I really love that roasted flavor. And so I like to roast it because that maintains that flavor and it's just delicious. So yeah, two big frozen bags of broccoli, 2 pounds, became less than 3 cups. I didn't weigh it, but it's also far less than a pound. So the other kind of amazing thing I think about dehydrating, and again, you guys know my preference for dehydrating, and I'm not necessarily trying to poo-poo canning, but also there's certain things you can't really can, or certain things that are not tested. And broccoli and cauliflower is one of those things. You can't just like can up a jar of broccoli or a jar of cauliflower, but you can dehydrate it, and it rehydrates very well in an instant style meal. And so I love it, and I think it works out really well. Okay, moving on. The next one, which is not an accurate representation of how much work I have done, because people keep eating these, are my strawberry chips. So they're currently at the 5.5 cup mark. So this has been a little bit, I have like a story to tell. So I did 9 pounds of just fresh organic strawberries. And when they were sliced and everything, they came up to the 6 cup mark. And so there's been a bit of a reduction, but actually it was down to here or so. And then I did 4 more pounds because I got a really good deal on organic strawberries and I just had a lot. And so this is how I had decided to preserve them. But I had 4 more pounds of strawberries, which I added, and it got back up to the 6 cup mark. And now it's going down again. So these might need to hide if I want to test them in oatmeal, which is like one of the main reasons I'm making the strawberries, was to be able to test them for putting into like instant oatmeal packs, like my own homemade ones. So anyway, amongst other things, you can powder it and flavor desserts or whatever, but this is about, you know, having strawberries in a time when I wouldn't have strawberries without it necessarily having to be jam. Although I am going to also make a strawberry jam, and I want to do a video on that, but the strawberries are very quickly deteriorating and I'm running out of time. There's been too many things going on. And so I might just need to do it without the video, but I do the NCHFP, that's the National Center for Home Food Preservation. I use their method for making jam without added pectin. So it ends up just using the strawberries and sugar, and it gets boiled to a certain temperature, which is what thickens the jam. And I will post a link to that below because it doesn't work with everything. It only works with certain fruits, and strawberries is one of the ones that it works with. But anyway, there are my strawberries and they're delicious. Actually, just before I started filming, Sage, who's right over here, asked for some strawberry chips, and I gave her some before I started filming. So she and my son Thad and my husband are going through them pretty fast because they're really yummy. And then the final thing, oh no, that's not the final thing. I'm still on the strawberries. Out of 9 pounds of strawberries, I got a quart of tops. And so we like to throw these tops into teas. And also it really makes a beautiful infused lemonade. Like I love doing lemons off our tree with strawberry tops, infusing to make kind of a strawberry lemonade, and it's really yummy. And then also nice infused waters, so like just toss into your water, and just, you know, if you do like a little strawberry tops and maybe a few slices of cucumber, like fresh cucumber. I think it's a delicious strawberry cucumber water. Mr. Vegan Prepper hates it, but he hates cucumbers, so he would. But anyway, all right, the final thing is celery. So, you know, I said, any of you who watched, I said I was gonna show you my dehydration of celery. I didn't. For one, I've never done this before, and I wanted to learn how to do it before I did a video and like work out all of the kinks before I got this started. I do still have several heads of celery in my, or bunches of celery. Heads of celery, bunches of, I'm not actually sure what the word is. But anyway, I have several of those in my fridge. I had purchased 25 bunches, we're gonna go with bunches of celery for $15, organic. And so I have a local wholesale produce place, and I am always, it's like almost every other day, I'm looking through the list of what they have and planning on, you know, what to grab. And right now, actually, I think the next thing I'm gonna get is a giant thing of cabbage. But anyway, regardless, for $10, it'll be like 20 heads of cabbage, or maybe even more than that. I can't remember. But anyway, it's just there. It's like a 40-pound thing of cabbage for $10. So that's just like, because I have a local place that has that. So I just utilize whatever resource I can. And I like to bring in those large quantities like I did with the strawberries, like I did with the celery, and then preserve them so that I have them at lower prices, especially with the way things have been going lately. Anyway, so this was 9 full bunches of celery, and they were big too. There were like some pretty hefty sized bunches of celery. I would show you, but I assume you know what a bunch of celery looks like. So I'm just going to like not go grab a visual. But anyway, 9 of those, it was a huge pile on my counter, turned into this. So I watched several videos. My original plan was to blanch these, but after watching a video, and I will link it down below, with basically my dehydrating diva, like I don't remember her name, but I think it's Tammy something. I'm looking back because I have the cookbook right here. Her name isn't even on the side. Okay, never mind. But anyway, Tammy something, I think. Her book, The Ultimate Dehydrator Cookbook, and then all her work, she's done incredible work in dehydrating and building a body of data, and I love her. I follow her work. She has a great YouTube channel. And so her video showed several things, including celery, and so you don't have to blanch them. And then she showed the difference between a blanched celery and an unblanched celery. And one of the things was that blanched celery did not reduce in size very much at all. Like it was just a very slight size reduction. But the unblanched celery like got super tiny. So I decided to go with unblanched celery, and I really hope that I don't regret that. So this is going to be going with, these are going to be going with some of these carrots into a, like a wild rice pilaf type instant meal experiment to see how it turns out. But I'm just very pleased with that. And this one is another one where the quantity difference was really funny and just kind of awesome. I did one tray that was 4 cups. I measured it exactly. Oh no, it was 4.5 cups. So that one was not, I didn't plan 4 cups. I measured the entire bunch of celery once it had gotten all chopped up and everything. It was 4.5 cups of those slices. And then when I measured it after I took it out of the dehydrator, it was just under 3/4 of a cup. So yeah, pretty dramatic size reduction in that one as well, just like the carrots. And so that's kind of what I'm going for. I'm looking for less space, like more bang for my buck with the space. I'm also going to be able to look at these and see what we're looking at for longevity, like how long do they keep their color? How long do they stay good, and all of that. And also in her book, she mentioned specifically with the celery that if you want to make a celery powder, like for flavoring your foods or whatever, to not cook it first specifically. So if you think you might want to make a powder, then don't cook it. So I was like, I don't know if I want to make a powder. So that was another reason that I decided not to blanch. So this ended up being actually a very easy project. I filled all 9 trays. It was basically 1 bunch of celery per tray. And I think I did it in just over 45 minutes. Like, it was really not a very time consuming project at all. And that's another reason that I really love dehydrating, because I mean, there's certain things that, yeah, will take more time. Like if you have to blanch them first, you have to do all that stuff, but there's certain projects in dehydrating where it just really doesn't take that much time beforehand. And then for me personally, like I said, because so much of this, I'm planning on it more for like instant kind of pour over boiling water meals, that I don't want to blanch. I want to fully cook the thing. Sorry, I like lost. Like, what was I saying? I don't know. Do you know what I was saying? Because I don't even know. But anyway, I'd want to fully cook it, because that is definitely something to keep in mind for making your own dehydrator instant meals. And that's something that I'm wanting to like put on the channel more. Even though I'm pretty sure I have a video of me putting together instant meals on here somewhere. If I do, I'll put it down below. It's like a slightly older video, but I'll find it and put it down. It might be one of the ones I filmed and never posted. You guys have no idea how much I film and don't post. But anyway, if I don't have one, I'll try to put one on there soon. But because that's my focus, is something that you can just pour boiling water over top of. I like to fully cook things before I dehydrate them. So these carrots and celery are a first for me of not doing that. So we're gonna see what happens. And I don't know if they're gonna end up being almost like the little crunchy bits of carrot and celery that you get in those types of meals. But one thing I also really like, I mentioned with the broccoli, that a lot of times the dehydrated foods end up almost having a little bit of a chew to them, even though it's not bad. Like, well, I will say for one thing I will say is potatoes. I've never cooked potatoes, dehydrated potatoes, enough that they weren't still a little chewy. Although we kind of like that. Like, especially my husband is obsessed with like jerky and fruit leather. Like, he loves vegan jerky, by the way, if somebody was like, what? But yeah, vegan jerky, fruit leathers and things like that. He loves that chew. He loves those potatoes. He thinks it's the best thing on earth, having that chew. But not every, like, he's one of those who wants the edge of the brownie pan because he wants the chewy bit. So he loves that texture. Not everybody will. So so for us, it's not a huge deal to have that, but it seems like they also kind of, like with fresh broccoli, if you overcook it, it'll kind of disintegrate into your dish, right? And a lot of things, they just kind of disintegrate into the dish if you overcook a fresh vegetable. But with the dehydrated foods, it seems like, I guess maybe just going through the process of dehydrating, they retain their own shape much better, it seems, than a lot of other kinds of food. So even if I have to cook rather than just pouring instant like boiling water over the top, they still end up turning out really good. So a whole lot of experimenting going down around here, because I am trying to figure out the best way of putting together some of these meals. But yeah, I haven't had the dehydrator going 24/7, totally full. But I'm still pretty happy with the amount of work that I did get done. You know, that was what, 13 pounds of celery, 13 pounds of strawberries, 9 bunches of celery, some carrots and broccoli. I'm pretty happy with that progress, but I'm going to keep moving forward and doing even more. So if you have any questions, please let me know down below. Any comments, anything that you specifically would like to see in a video. I was going to be filming a celery dehydration video, but probably my next one is actually going to be a kale dehydrating video, because when I opened my curtains this morning to look out at my beautiful garden, I saw my little sweet kale plants. They're in their second year and it has been warming up. They are bolting. So there's tiny little bits of flower trying to come up. And so I need to go cut them off at the root before they go any further and dehydrate those leaves. So that will probably be the next thing that I do. And also my timer is going off to stir my sourdough. So yeah, it's really busy around here. Just let me know down in the comments. Like I said, if you have any questions or comments, let me know what you'd like to see more of, and I will do my best to serve up what you want. So anyway, as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today. See you later. Bye.